Hi, this is Patrick, and this is Brian. Together we just got done playing a game called Haze Island at the Cloak and Blaster. Check out Haze Island. Brian?
Yes.
Tell us all about Haze Island. Arr.
All right. Haze Island is it's basically like a seafaring delve or dungeon delve type game. It's for 1 to 3 players. It takes about 40 minutes to read the rules. It takes about 20 minutes per player, 1 to 3 player game, which is kind of interesting. There's a solitary version, there's a competitive version, and then
co-op version.
It's not. I guess there's sort of the co-op or whatever. You can all be survivors, but then there's still like a point distribution system at the end to determine who the ultimate winner is. Essentially, in the game, I think there's a total of about 52 cards, and then there's some other like pirate tokens and the Doom dice, the Doom creature that roams around the board trying to kill whoever the closest player is at the end of every round. But there are 2 different types of cards. You've got the map cards, and you have the adventure cards. And because it's a delve, it's kind of like a tile placement, but there are no tiles, but you are making tiles out of the 2 different types of cards. So whenever you go and you do a scout, you're going to take one of your map cards that are face down, and you're going to put it next to one of the adjacent locations. And then you're also going to take an adventure card, and you're going to kind of pair that up. And they line up really nicely, and they form like a nice square, kind of like a tile placement or tile map when you're done. Now, each of them have an arrow, so you can only like expand or scout into the proper location. Sometimes you're going to run into dead ends or cursed areas or something like that. So sometimes the map throws you, depending on the randomization of the cards, it's going to be a different time. It's going to be different every time you lay it out. The other thing is the adventure cards are also going to, they've got like a cost on them. So if you happen to be have your pirate ship at that location and you have the resources you can spend from your hand, you can complete that mission, which is part of the card, take that, and that's going to be worth a number of icons or victory points at the end of the game.
Your deployed pirates can also score you some of those resources you use to buy that adventure too.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the other actions that you could take. Basically, there's a whole number of different actions. You can scout, you can sail, you can raid, you can deploy, you can complete those missions on those adventure cards, you can attack other players, but all of these generally require you to use some of your map cards, which are face down and not actually in your hand. You'll have some cards in your hand at some point too for resources you could spend, but you're going to be spending cards from your map pile of cards. But one of the cool things is every time you're discarding these cards, they're basically going to the player to the left, and the last player is actually putting them into the final discard pile. So everybody's cards kind of get recycled and form the basis for the total number of actions that you can use. They're kind of almost like action points or something like that, and each different action costs you a certain number of points, and so that's kind of a really unique concept. But basically, the game is played over a total of 6 rounds, and at the end, and there's a number of six rounds, but there's a couple other game end conditions that can trigger, like if all the players are killed by either other players, they become castaways, or by the Doom, then they become ghost ships. If all players are castaways or ghost ships, the game will end then. 6 rounds, and I thought there was a third way that the game could end, which there is, and you'll see them in the rules when you buy this game on Kickstarter. But Patrick, what would you say is your favorite thing about Haze Island?
It's got to be this not really resource allocation. I don't know. There's some really inventive stuff in this game for sure. But I have this map deck of cards, and if I want to do a certain action, I have to give Brian so many cards to complete that action. That allows him to do more actions. Now, sometimes I can control what cards he gets, so it'll control his resource allocation throughout the game, and that's just one of the strategies. But my favorite part is me doing those actions, knowing that I'm giving him more opportunities to do other actions. It's just a neat mechanic, and it makes you really think about what you're going to do before you do it. And if there's one thing that you like the most, what do you like?
I like the amount of strategy that's kind of been put into the game in terms of it uses a very limited amount of components. I think there's a total of 52 cards, I think, in the deck. But the amount of replayability, because you're combining an adventure card with the map cards, and then you're forming like these tile placements. So that's just kind of, I think, my favorite thing about the game. I haven't seen something like that where you're combining 2 cards to form like the square tiles in the game. So I think that's a very unique strategy for combining. There's a whole lot of things going on those cards, and they're being used and reused for just different purposes as well.
And you had mentioned earlier that it creates such a large amount of replayability when you combine those 2 cards together to make that one spatial place. It's really, it's genius. It's really genius.
What would you say is the thing that you like least, though?
It's tough. It's got great art. It's really there's not a lot of art, but the art that it has is really beautiful. Somebody spent a lot of time and money, and it's got beautiful graphic art. But I would say, from what I see for the game components, I'm not 100% sure what they're going to be, but the pictures of what we think the game components are going to be fairly mundane. The game is mostly based off these cards, but there are little icons, and there's the Doom that chases you around the board. It's a 6-sided die. I wish that was something a little scarier, even though I know the importance of its value of having 6 sides to it. But that would be the thing I think I like the least is maybe the cosmetics of the other accessories that are going to come with the game. And if there's one thing that you had to choose...
the thing that I liked least about Haze Islands is that... granted that there is a lot of things going on with a few number of components, but it kind of gets a little bit fiddly in that, because you're combining cards to actually make the tiles, but then at the end of the rounds, like you're going to have to go in and turn a lot of different cards and like rotate things, and other guys have abilities that can rotate things as well.
And deal more cards out too.
Yeah, so sometimes, it's, if you've got OCD, lining up everything exactly the same sometimes might drive you a little nuts. But so there's a little bit of fiddliness going on, but I don't think it's really that big of an issue.
And if there's one more thing that you had to point out that you might find challenging, is because it's got so few game components, and we both talked about this too, so few game components, there's a lot of mechanisms in the game. So the rules are a little hard to chew on. It's not very instinctual.
Yeah, there's no mechanics in this game, but there probably are shipwrights. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, Haze Island is coming to Kickstarter very soon, so make sure you sail on over there and plunder your copy.
I'm Patrick, this is Brian. Together we are Just Got Played, coming to you from Haze Island and Cloak and Blaster. Thank you for watching.
A couple of seamen chumming the seas.
Yo ho, yo ho.
And a bottle of rum.
It's a pirate's life for me.
Bottle of rum.
That's, do you have any rum on you?
No. But